Mr. Zungu, thank you very much for your time. I want to quote you directly on what that Sunday Times article said you essentially were saying, and that is that the current businesses who are benefiting from the COVID-19 funds are, and I quote, not black businesses, but thieves. Why do you hold this view?
Well, last week we were awash with a barrage of WhatsApp messages which were challenging us as black business, having lobbied so strongly for black participation in the supply of PPEs, that here we are. Unknown entities, some of them established as literally as recently as a couple of months ago, a few days before they awarded hundreds of millions of tenders. Said, are these your members? Are you standing by them? And we said, absolutely not. We do not know them. We don't even know who are behind those personalities, but they're not our members. And from the evidence that was presented to us, especially just around dates, we said, no, they cannot be a legitimate black business. In any case, I think the regulations by National Treasury around the supply of services and goods on an emergency basis does not qualify them to supply these services. So we actually have members of the Black Business Council and black business community as a whole really seething with anger, expecting us to take a decision on challenging this matter, and as we're doing.
Let me ask you this question, Mr. Zungu, and I'm sorry to interrupt you here. There are names on that report by the Sunday Times yesterday, names such as that of a powerful businesswoman in this country, Chi Mongeau. Is she counted among those that you say the business is basically not legitimate? And if indeed that is your view, why would you hold such a view against someone who's built quite a reputation for herself as a legitimate business person?
Well, we cannot personalize this matter, Oli. As you know, if you're going down that path, then becoming very personal. It's not the purpose of our response as an organized business. What we are basically saying is National Treasury has set regulations around emergency procurement of goods and services. And they talk about fairness, they talk about anti-competitiveness, and they talk about transparency. And all these three attributes don't seem to be applicable in this particular case. And it is stated that some of them supplied goods and services at hugely inflated rates. And that robs the poor. That is effectively a corrupt practice. And as an organized formation of black business, we have to take a stand, and as we're not doing, taking a stand. So it's not personal on anybody. For that matter, we will not be taking a personal view, but when matters are exposed as having been corrupt, we are also not going to be scared to take a personal view on culprits, whoever they are.
And I'm glad you say that you're not going to be frightened to name and shame those that you believe are looting this country, particularly at a time like this. Would you hold that same view? I know you said you're not personalizing it, but she is in the headlines because of the position that she holds. She speaks for the president, Cyril Ramaphosa. Her husband is alleged to have benefited. The company in question is said to have been established just last year. Is that essentially what you're talking about when you talk about illegitimate black businesses?
Let me tell you, Chloe, we are on record as having taken the Solidarity Fund to task for not affording legitimate black businesses an opportunity to supply PPEs. And we're told that there's a portal that they have to respond to, and we encourage our members to respond to the portal, which actually says they must qualify in various regards, including tax clearance certificates, including physical location. We encourage them to be patient, and some of them have been accepted now. And here's a process run by provincial governments, not just Gauteng, there's KwaZulu-Natal, there's Eastern Cape, there's Western Cape, and here are these provincial government-run processes which basically take shortcuts and allow people who are basically fly-by-nights for all intents and purposes to be in front of the queue. And those who are legitimate, who are disciplined, who are trying to raise the bar for black business are basically left in the lurch. That is very unfair.
Final question to you, Mr. Zungu, and I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask you this. Not so long ago, you were seen as rubbing shoulders with the infamous Gupta family, your close links to Jacob Zuma's family, the former president. You were called out, in fact, by the president of BUSA, that's Mr. Pityana, who said to you, in a personal opinion, that you cannot be trustworthy unless you come clean on your recent links with the Guptas. So you see, the question there is, you a fine one to speak, but what about your recent links to the Guptas? Would you say that they were legitimate business people?
Well, at the time that I was associated with the Guptas, I mean, when we talk about rubbing shoulders, we are possibly talking physically rubbing shoulders, because there's a video which is often cited by ENCA where I was physically rubbing shoulders. If that's the sum total of what we are talking about, then it's fine. But the fact of the matter is that one does not do business with the Guptas. And for all intents and purposes, by the time they were heavily involved in state capture, one had long disassociated ourselves with them as organized business formation as well as personalities. So our credibility to take on the issues can never be impugned by our history of rubbing shoulders, as you correctly call it.
Let me put it to you this way, and it's a question. Would you regard the Gupta family as legitimate business people sitting here today and knowing what we know?
Absolutely not.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for your time. Sandile Zungu, he's the president of the Black Business Council.